Well, welcome back, everybody. Dennis Darville back with you for our second episode on humility in our series on humility. And I'm really, really excited to tell you, I'm at my home course in the southwest corner of Mississippi, a place that's incredibly dear and special to me for lots of reasons. And in the background here was my very favorite hole number 14, about 385 yards. I guess they could stretch it out to about 400. Tree lines, tight, very hilly, elevated green, undulating green, tough hole. Just happened to be what I thought was the prettiest hole we had. And it's just a hole that fit my eye, and I loved it. And I'm back in town because I just spent the last weekend with my high school classmates celebrating our 50th high school class reunion. And what a joy it was to see old friends, many of which I hadn't seen in decades and decades, and some of which I hadn't seen since we graduated. There was a sobering moment on Saturday night, not unusual, where we all gathered for a big banquet and to reminisce, and it was really a lot of fun. But there were maybe 15 minutes there that were really sobering and poignant when my classmates who organized all this and put it together had the big screen come down, and we showed the pictures and the names of 50 of our classmates that are no longer with us. They've gone across the great divide. And it just, it was sad. It brought up a lot of memories, one of which was a dear, dear close friend of mine, a high school, not only classmate, but a golf teammate, a dear friend. My other golf teammates were there. And of course, we just miss him, but spent seemingly million hours out at this golf course playing with Doug and Al and Sonny and others and Mike and Ken. And I grew up here, college and high school days, mowing these greens, mowing these fairways, punching these greens, fertilizing these greens, hedging shrubs, you name it. This is where I learned the game of golf. My dad taught me, introduced me to the game. It's where I built friendships, where I learned the rules of the game, the etiquette of the game. Not that I always honored the etiquette of the game, shame on me. But this place is really special. And probably like you, apart from maybe Augusta National, if I were asked the one place you would love to play, if you only had one more golf course to play before you go the way of all flesh, of course it would be here. And mostly just because of sentimental values. And some of my friends are still around. I mean, I've been gone for a long time, 46 years, but happened to be here. I thought, well, I'll just video here from my favorite place and in the whole wide world and talk to you guys just briefly about humility. I'm no psychologist, and far from it. Nobody's ever confused me with being a counselor. But one thing I've noticed about all of us is that we desire to be noticed and we desire to be valued. And sometimes we go about that in the right way through maybe working hard in the classroom to make good grades and to be recognized appropriately so, or to work really hard on our golf games and to put in the time and the effort so that we can become accomplished and, to be recognized in that way. I wouldn't know what that's like, but I still aspire for that. But we can go about it in the right ways. We can go about it in the wrong ways, right? The class clown, the kid who goes in directions through booze and drugs and other behaviors that are just inappropriate, trying to get attention, trying to be recognized. In other words, we just want to be noticed. And in the midst of all our pursuits, whether they're noble or ignoble, our desire to be noticed and recognized, it's deeply, deeply situated down in our constituent nature. It's just a part of what it means to be in the image of God, to be recognized, to be affirmed. I remember, you remember, I know what it was like to play Little League Baseball or, whatever, to look through the stands to see if your parents recognize that you've just gotten hit and now you're, stand up double on second base or whatever, or you know, you're playing basketball in grade school or junior high or high school or whatever, and you just make a bucket to go up to, and you kind of at least glance in the stands to see if your dad notices. You want to be noticed, right? And that's appropriate. Or, you know, I was thinking about that this morning. You know, by the time I get to junior high football, JV football, high school football, if I did something that I thought was significant on the field of play, I would at least glance over to the cheerleaders to see if my girlfriend recognized that I'd done something that I thought was outstanding. And of course, if she didn't, then I'd want to work harder to get her attention. Now, my parents were in the stands and I wanted their attention, but as important as they were a distant second on getting my girlfriend's attention. So you get the point, right? Whether it's in sport, whether it's in our careers, whether it's in academia, or it's in our relationships, by human nature, human definition, or any definition of human nature, we want to stand out in some way. And I think it's appropriate. I just think it's unavoidable. The sad thing is, no matter how we go about it, whether it's honorable or dishonorable, it's fading. It's like a vapor. Those recognitions, those honors, those tributes, they just vanish, you know. In other words, we've got this itch that we want to scratch, and we might momentarily scratch it, but immediately starts itching again. And why is that? Well, because in our souls, what we really want is our Heavenly Father's notice, recognition, and favor. But we're never going to get it as long as we pridefully and arrogantly try to live out our lives apart from His created structures and the way He's ordered the universe and the way He's prepared for redemption in our lives. In all our efforts and all our pursuits and all our seekings to get recognized, noticed, affirmed, appreciated, valued, if we try to go about that purely on a horizontal level without going vertical and getting our approval from Him, His look, as Isaiah would say, where you sense the Father nodding, where you sense the Lord Himself smiling, where you sense the favor of God. There's nothing like it. The Apostle Paul would say that it was the constraining love of Christ, or the love of Christ constrained him, meaning not his love for Christ, but meaning Christ's love for him. And so this week, we're just going to talk about that very thing, how to go about sensing the Lord's affirmation and recognition. And we get that by humbling ourselves under the Lordship of Jesus Christ. So I hope you enjoyed this week's devotional. God bless, and we'll see you next week.